Well, Scent.com now saying the American death toll relating to military operations against Iran has risen to 6. At least 18 American troops have been seriously wounded in the fighting so far. Meanwhile, hundreds of pro-Iranian protesters stormed a U.S. consulate in Pakistan after the death of Iran's supreme leader was announced. 9 of those protesters were killed. Dozens were injured. The strikes in Iran have spurred fear and uncertainty for neighboring Afghanistan and Pakistan. And this morning, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth addressed how long the conflict with Iran could last. Take a listen.
President Trump has all the latitude in the world to talk about how long it may or may not take. 4 weeks, 2 weeks, 6 weeks. It could move up. It could move back. We're going to execute at his command the objectives we've set out to achieve.
Meanwhile, U.S. Central Command tweeted out this video of a B-1 bomber taking off. They say last night B-1 bombers struck deep inside Iran to degrade Iranian ballistic missile capabilities. And for the first time in combat, the U.S. military is deploying one-way kamikaze drones that are copycats of Iran's drones. The Lucas drone, that's the American one, which stands for Low-Cost Unmanned Combat Attack System, was reverse engineered after the Iranian drone called Shahed 136. An Arizona company developed the drones with a range of about 500 miles and a maximum payload of 40 pounds.
So the Lucas is a low-cost platform that provides cutting-edge capability at only a fraction of the cost of traditional U.S. platforms that deliver the same effects.
So joining us now is J.D. Simkins, the editor-in-chief of Military Times and Defense News. J.D., great to be with you. How do these drones operate, and why is the U.S. using them now?
Well, these drones, first of all, thank you for having me, Liz. These drones are a pretty fascinating development within the last really 7 months. This is a rapid fielding of a system that, traditional military fielding systems and things like that could take years. And by the time that these systems are even in the hands of warfighters, the conflict has evolved. The nature of combat itself no longer warrants whatever development was in the process. So in doing this, they've taken a system that has really been a headache for U.S. forces in the Red Sea in recent years, Israelis, others, Ukrainians on the front line that are being hit by Iranian-designed Shahed drones. And they have made a copycat version, or really 2 versions, that has taken a Shahed drone, reverse engineered it, as you said, has a maximum payload of 40 pounds. Or that's about twice the explosive yield as a Hellfire missile. But the biggest draw, as we've said, is it's the price tag. You look at the munitions that are being expended right now in the Middle East or in Ukraine and all over the world by U.S. forces. It's multi-million-dollar missile systems and things like that that are now, these Lucas drones cost $35,000 a pop. So
wow.
if you break it down to this, a simple cost of a Tomahawk missile, for example, something like that usually runs around $2 million per missile. And this, you could essentially have 57 of these Lucas drones for that same cost.
Iran drones, though, are cost efficient as well. I'm curious if you feel like these weapons are making war, frankly, more attainable for some of these countries. War is no longer cost prohibitive.
It's not, and we're seeing that everywhere. We're seeing it in Ukraine on the front lines where even as recent as 4 years ago when Russia invaded, these are no longer battle lines that are operated in the same way that they were even 2, 3, 4 years ago. These are dominated by machines where I think 80% of Russian targets right now that are being destroyed by Ukraine are being done so by drones. Many of their systems have been modified just off of off-the-shelf commercial drones, which the U.S. has seen the success of this and has adapted it in turn in recent initiatives where they're pushing for innovation and smaller time companies versus, the traditional Lockheed Martins and Northrop Grummons. It's no longer just the big wigs in that game anymore. As the Lucas drone, for example, it's Spectre Works out of Arizona, and quite frankly, I don't think anybody had necessarily heard of them prior to this, but they're sure making a a mark on the battlefield right now.
Yeah, it seems like drones, it's the drone war. That is the future of warfare as we know it. I'm curious, are we going to get to a point where we don't send troops on the ground, that won't be necessary because of this technology?
I'm of the belief that there's always going to be a human in the loop at some point, but I mean, you are seeing it in Ukraine right now, where the front lines themselves are being manned less and less by troops and more by machines, and whether that's a ground autonomous machine or air or naval drones or any of the case, these are increasingly being fielded, and they're being fielded with speed and at scale because of their affordability. So, you know, as this Lucas drone is showing as an example, this is a call that Pete Hegseth put out maybe 7 months ago. And from that memo of ordering companies and branches to field these faster to now February 28th, they were seeing their first action in combat. That's only 7 months, and that is a remarkably fast timeline to see a weapon go from development to the battlefield.
JD Simkins, thank you so much.